that kind of gets me into a thought about the white gaze. And so, from your understanding, could you tell us a little bit about, what is the white gaze, and why is it important for us to talk about it?
Right. When I think about the white gaze, I find myself thinking about um, double consciousness, especially considering the fact that I engage the idea of the white gaze from an Africana studies lens. But the white gaze is in many ways related to a sort of a ethnocentric perspective, where things are seen from the perspective of a certain kind of normative whiteness. And I would take it a step further, as others have done, and argue that when you have normative whiteness as the primary lens, then what is seen, or what the idea of what should be seen, must fit within that lens. So it's not simply a way of seeing, it's also a way of making what is seen fit into a certain kind of normative whiteness. And of course, the consequences of this are many, and not the least of which it relates to our discussion around the relationship between racism and the way in which Black people are represented or misrepresented in media and in popular culture, when a one kind of lens defines everything. It renders other expressions, other experiences, other life, other realities less legible, and therefore unseen. And that creates a whole host of problems around identity, perspective, around the way in which people see themselves and the way in which others see other people.
So thinking about that, might we say maybe there is a reclamation of the gaze from non-white individuals? So I'm thinking about such influences in pop culture like Black Panther film, Crazy Rich Asians, Get Out, Watchmen, Lovecraft Country, or even like the Obama portraits from Amy Sherrod and Kehinde Wiley. So might we say that there's kind of like this reclamation of the gaze, so to speak?
I think so. I think so. And I think we could say a few other things as well. We can, this idea of reclaiming the gaze is really interesting. And I think that what I see also is this idea of moving outside of the gaze and being self-actualized with one's own gaze. So which in a way, of course, is the same thing as saying reclaiming, which is extremely important. One thing that I want to mention around this idea of the white gaze and our responses to it, and there have been debates in Africana studies around this for decades, and around the reality of Eurocentrism and normative whiteness and the white gaze, obviously. So when you are responding to something, that something is defining you. So that's, to be reactionary is not to be self-actualized. And so what we sometimes see in our responses to the white gaze is essentially saying, I am not what you say I am, right? And so therefore, expressions that are articulated in that way are still tied to this white gaze, a response, a reaction to. And many of the examples that you cited, I don't believe represent such a response. They represent, in many ways, a self-articulated, self-actualized, again, expression of life, and of Black life in particular. The one danger that we have to acknowledge, and I know you know this, Dr. Gibson, is that there are many different, we could argue there are many different gazes, right? So the white gaze is one, and sometimes in other groups, certain kinds of experiences become normative. So, all right, we're setting aside the white gaze, and so we're going to present this portrait or this reality of Black life, or whatever the point of reference might be. And what we see is then a different kind of normative status. So we then center cishet Black men, and then the experiences of other people in the African American community or in the African diaspora are set to the boundaries. And so I think there has to be a constant iteration of tension and tensions around challenging and making sure that no one group gets a chance to define a particular voice for the entire group. So, but I do think, with the instances that you mentioned, there is a very, very important expression that is independent of the white gaze in many ways. You and I have had some debates around Black Panther and some of my problems with it, but there's no doubt that that's not something that we would have seen 20, 30, or 40 years ago. And so absolutely, I think we are seeing a distinction, a separation from the white gaze.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. Very poignant points pointed out there.